Good morning. Naturally Marilyn here. Today is a homemade barbecue sauce recipe, and I hope you enjoy it. There's a few variations. I've included it while I was going over the recipe, and I hope you like it. I look forward to your comments, or if you'd like to see some of the variations done. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon. Okay, here we are. We're ready to get started on this homemade barbecue sauce. We're going to start off with 2 cups of ketchup. I've included a picture of all the ingredients, and then I'll do a list at the end. So let's just get started. So again, that's 2 cups of ketchup. And I usually start out with about a half a cup of water and get this mixed up good, and I always check later to see if I need to add anything. So we'll go with that to start. And I just make sure that's all mixed through. If you can see, we want to make sure that all this water is incorporated so it doesn't have a watery effect at all. And it doesn't take long. I usually start up here and let it mix in a bit so then the water incorporates without splashing it everywhere. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's starting to get a shiny, glossy kind of look to it. It's incorporating a little better. And when you no longer see the water as a separate thing, then that's good and mixed. You can just see that it's just ketchup. So we'll turn it on. I put it to about a medium heat while I'm mixing it, and then we'll bring it to a boil in a bit. So we have our 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar going in. Again, you want to do the same as you did with the water, because if you're pretty vigorous, it's just going to splash everywhere. And it's getting even glossier, which we'd like to see. It's mixing well. It has a really nice smell. So now I'm going to mix. This would be a half a cup of brown sugar. I can't eat white or brown sugar, so I'm using coconut cane sugar, which I used in place of brown sugar. Gives it that nice, rich, almost malty flavor that you get regular from brown sugar. And I usually mix that in and try to make sure I get the lumps out. There's usually not too many, but it's already taking on a tiny bit of a different color. All of this will cook down and break down anyway, so you don't have to be too worried about if there's a tiny bit of lump in there. It'll still cook down. So now the color has changed quite a bit. I don't know if you can see that it's a little darker. And oh man, does it smell good. So now we're going to put in 3 tablespoons of yellow mustard. Now as a variation, if you like, sometimes I use Dijon. The odd time I have some different types of deli mustards with a little bit of spice or horseradish in it. So sometimes I'll use that just for fun. Something a little different. This mixes in pretty easily, as you can see. Again, that sort of changes the color a little bit more. In the photograph I showed the sealer jar I use. It's quite a large one, so I think it's about a quart. Not sure. So that's mixing in nicely. We're going to add a couple tablespoons of olive oil. Now originally the recipe called for 3, and if you want to do 3 you can, but I found 2 works nicely. This mixes in a little more easily than the vinegar in the water, so it shouldn't take long. And when this all boils up and it starts to thicken and get a little more gooey, you won't even see any of these separate ingredients at all. And now we have our 1/2 cup of molasses. This will change the color again into a nice rich dark. Now this really helps bind it and give it a nice glossy sort of delicious finish when you do barbecue. So again, we'll get that mixed up, and it's heating up nicely. The ingredients are incorporating nicely. I usually am going to go pretty easy on it until I'm done mixing. As you can see, it's getting quite dark. Now, other times when I prefer a lighter sauce, or it depends for chicken and maybe pork, I'll make this recipe, but the variation of the molasses, I'll use honey instead, or something along those lines. That if you wanted, you could even use maple syrup. This time I thought we'd go for the darker sauce, and the next time I make it I could make it lighter if you want to see that. If you do, just drop it in the comments and let me know, and I'd be happy to do that. So as you can see, it's quite a bit darker. So I've mixed in a tablespoon of onion flakes. You can use minced onions, whatever you like. And I usually just start with a tablespoon and see how we do there. I'll be adding some fresh mint. So now we're going to add the same amount of garlic and see how that goes. I put a generous heaping tablespoon, and I just now buy the garlic because it's a lot quicker and easier, but you can mince it from scratch if you like. And as you can see, it's got some nice little yummy bits, and when you are swathing that all across your meat, it sticks to it and it is delicious when you bite into a chunk of that. It's got, you know, the chunks of garlic and onion. So it's up to you. If you don't prefer garlic and onion, you don't have to put that in. You can substitute that for a heaping teaspoon of oregano and basil, something like that if you want. Sometimes I add all of those, but today this particular sauce is what we're doing. So I'm going to add in a tablespoon of onion powder as well, just to give it a little more onion flavor. A good mix through. We're just about there and just about ready to go to a boil. And it's glossing over beautifully, and it's already thickening up. So if you put it on that medium heat while you're mixing it as I have, then it won't take you as long to mix and bring to a boil later and get it to this consistency. Once you bring it to a boil, if it's already like that, it should only take a few minutes. So we're going to go 3 tablespoons of paprika. Well, I'm one for just pouring right out of the bottle. I don't know about you, but whatever works. And you can use a measuring spoon if you like. I find something like this, because it's paprika, it doesn't have to be absolutely and perfectly precise. So it's a time when you can just have fun with it and let it go in there. And this is a nice deep rich sauce. The last one I made with honey instead of the molasses, and it was a really nice red color. And it was really delicious on the chicken and pork. This I prefer on the heavier meats, but and it's coming along beautifully. There's lots of stuff in there, so I don't think I need to add any more onion or garlic. So I'm going to get this mixed up and the lid on for a few minutes and let it come to a boil. And once it does that, I'll show you. We'll turn it down to simmer, and just a really light simmering until the vinegar dissipates a little bit and the sauce sort of gels together a tiny bit more. You'll really notice it gelling more once it has a chance to cool down and settle, but you will see it still change its form here once it starts simmering for a bit. And it's already wanting to come to a boil here pretty quickly because we've had it on a medium heat. My pans, they tend to take a while to heat up, but they get hot real quick. So it doesn't take long once they've been warmed to come to a boil. Okay, we're back, and it's really starting to boil here on the corners. You can't see, but it's going to start flying up here. So I'll soon turn it down. It's starting to boil up nicely. I don't know if you can see that or not. When it starts to boil up on the sides, I give it a good stir because, as I said, these pans get quite hot. So it'll distribute the heat and stop those from sticking or burning in any way. So just be wary of your type of pots and pans and things, and know how it likes to cook best. So we're going to turn that down to a smaller simmer. So I'm going to turn it down to low and put the pot on to 3/4, and that'll simmer away in some of the vinegar. You'll notice when you take the lid off, you could really smell what's been trapped under there with the vinegar, and it comes out. 5 to 10 minutes if you've already been cooking it on medium heat this whole time. If not, I suggest 15 minutes once it comes to a boil if you're doing it just from very scratch. Okay, so we're back. It's been about 7 minutes. And you can see this is just really rocking away here. And I have it on really low boil, and you can see how thick that is. I'm going to turn that off now. Give it a really good mix. This is really thick, so I can probably add that little tiny bit of water to this, because once this cools down, as I said, that's when you really see it thicken and gel. So I think it really makes a big difference when you can cook it on a low to medium heat when you are building the sauce to begin with. And it's just beautiful. It's thick, it's rich, it smells so aromatic. It looks delicious. So we're going to let that cool down. And once that's cooled down, this is the jar that I keep it in. And it's just a regular sealer jar. And I replace those from time to time, and just keep that in the fridge. So once this is cooled down a little bit, we'll pour it in the jar, and I'll show you that, and that's it for the barbecue sauce. I hope you like it. If you give it a try and you like it, let me know. If you would like to see a variation, or you have questions and you want to try a variation, let me know. Thanks for stopping by. I'm trying to get better at this as we go, so thanks for your patience, and we'll see you again soon.